Hello, and we're back with another live here on Go Boss Planners. So excited. I'm Christina, if you are not familiar, and today I just wanted to do a quick live training all about how to start planning your 2023 planning system in 6 simple steps. Like I said in our last live, kicking off a series here where I'm going to do a bunch of different live trainings just to help us get planned, organized, and be able to live and create a life that we absolutely love. So I'm excited about this topic because it's an important one. So let's see what we are going to talk about next. All right. So my goal with today's training is to help you start designing your 2023 planning system for efficiency, productivity, and results. I really want to do this training so that we can start being forward thinking and look ahead to what it is we want to accomplish. Because if we can start looking ahead to what we want to accomplish and start looking at it from the lens of being effective and efficient, being productive, and really actualizing and knowing that we can achieve the results that we're looking for, then we can be a lot more successful in the new year coming up ahead. So, planning your planning system is incredibly, incredibly important. And I mentioned that already. And the reason that it is so important is like I said, we want to be able to be forward thinking and really understand or start to set the intention behind what we want to accomplish. And so it allows us to take a moment and really reflect and understand what it is that you need. And by taking this time before the new year actually begins to think about how you can create a planning system to help you be effective and efficient and achieve the results you're looking for, then you can be a whole lot more intentional and make a planning system based on what you need rather than trying to fit into a mold or fit into a planner or another type of planning system and instead try to make yourself fit that system. This gives you an opportunity to really devise and create a system that is kind of tailored towards what will serve you, or go out and look for systems that give you what you need because you're figuring that out now, as opposed to kind of letting the systems and other processes tell you what it is you need. So let's go ahead and get into these 6 simple steps that I wanted to share on how it is you can start planning your 2023 planning system. And again, this is a planning system that is going to help you to be productive, efficient, and really get the results that you're looking for. So step number 1 is to think about your results. Think about what it is you want to accomplish in the new year. So the universe is the limit. I know that usually the expression is the sky is the limit, but we don't want to stop at the sky, right? We want to go out into the universe. The universe is the limit. Anything that you want to accomplish, this is the time to dream and dream super duper big. Think about what it is you need and what you want to accomplish next year. And let yourself think about both the long term goals as well as the short term goals. So, a long term goal and a short term goal is going to differ from person to person. Some people might think that a long term goal is something that they're going to accomplish in 5 to 10 years, whereas other people might think that a long term goal is something that you're going to accomplish in 1 year. But think about any of the long term goals that you have and think about how 2023 or the next year coming up is going to be influenced by that long-term goal that you have for yourself. And then think about any short-term goals. Maybe these are goals that are going to take a month to complete. Or maybe there are goals that are going to take you the whole year, but it's still a short term goal to you in the grand scheme of things. Or maybe it's going to take a few months. But think about any goals that you are going to be able to accomplish within the next year, within the next year's time frame, and figure out how that's going to affect your overall results as well as what you need to set up in the new year. It's really important to start from this lens because, again, we are working to create a planning system that's going to work with for you, and that really starts by knowing what it is you want in the first place. So let's go ahead on to step number 2. So step number 2 is your first reflection. So Reflecting is incredibly, incredibly important, as is introspection. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. But your first reflection, think about what worked for you this year. And when we're thinking about what worked for you this year, I want us to look specifically into what worked in your system and how you planned this year. That's what you want to do with your first reflection. So think about the method that you used and think about the planner that you used as well. Also think about any materials that you used. So did you use paper and pen? Did you do digital planning and use an iPad or a tablet? Did you do everything online? Did you use something like Notable and you just relied on Notable templates and things like that? Think about what you actually used. And also think about any books that you read about planning or productivity this year and anything that you were able to pull from those books that served you this year or maybe didn't. Also think about what you learned in courses or content here on YouTube. What were you able to pull out and apply to your planning system over the course of this past year that really worked well for you? Pull out those little bits of information and really start to understand what is serving you in your current planning system or the system that you used this year and what isn't. Maybe you didn't use a planning system at all for this entire year, and maybe you're watching this training because you want to figure out how to create a planning system from scratch. This is your first time looking at creating a planning system. Well, if that's the case, think about why it is you want to create a planning system in the first place. What is it that you want to be able to do as a result of creating a planning system? Think about how it is you learn best, how it is you remember things best. You can think back to when you were a student, or if you are a student, what are the best ways, or what were the systems that you used when it came to taking notes or studying and different things like that. Now, you also want to think about anything that you learned during the year, but you haven't had the opportunity to apply just yet, but it's information that you do want to apply. Make sure that you carve that information out too and write that down, because that's going to be important when it comes to actually creating your planning system. So then step number 3 is your second reflection. So in your second reflection, you want to think about what did not work for you this year. Okay. So think about how you planned this year and what didn't work with that planning system. Maybe it was the method that you used, or maybe it was the type of planner or planners that you used. Maybe it was the fact that you used multiple planners. Maybe it was the fact that you used just one planner, but it feels like you might want to use more than one in the upcoming year. Think about any materials that you used. Maybe you found that you don't like using stickers. Maybe you found that you do that was maybe a gap in your system and that you feel like you should try using stickers. Write that down as well. Maybe you didn't use any color coding or anything like that in your system, but you think that that would help you. Maybe you did use too much color coding in your system. Maybe you tried to get too granular and that was just too much, so it felt overwhelming. Really take a moment and think about what it is that wasn't working for you this year. Also, you want to think about what you have learned about yourself in your own tendencies here, okay? And this is why I said that introspection is also really important. It's not just about reflecting, you also want to introspect too, because again, this is creating a planning system that is for you, right? So think about what you've learned over the course of this past year, this current year now. What have you learned about yourself and your own tendencies, right? What have you learned about how you get things done or how you manage your work? And, any procrastination tendencies? Are you an overachiever? Do you not procrastinate at all? Like, think about what you have learned about yourself so that you can understand why some of these things might not have been serving you this past year, as well as, be able to put in place some things that will better serve you in the new year. Okay. Also, think about any topics for planning or about learning about yourself that you want to learn more about. So, topics that you haven't yet learned about, but maybe you have these noted down somewhere on a notepad or notebook, and it's a topic that you want to learn more about, but you haven't had the opportunity to learn. Put that down in this category too, because then we can apply that when it comes to creating your planning system for next year. So let's go ahead to step number 4, and that is balance. What are the areas of your life that you need to manage in the new year? So, here you want to think about first any of the areas of life that you managed this year. So, these are essentially your areas of responsibility or any of the life categories that you have to manage on a day to day basis. Think about what you know is coming up for the new year. So, what are some of the categories that you know you have to carry through into the new year? Or what are some categories that you know are going to come up in the new year? A great example of this is if you're planning to start a business in the new year, then you know that that might not be a category or an area of responsibility that you had to manage this year, but that you're going to have to plan to manage in the upcoming year. Okay. Think about any, sports that your children might be starting, or, if your kids are going to be starting school or anything like that. Think about any hobbies or anything that you are going to be starting in the new year. If you're anticipating entering into a relationship or something like that, then put that down, because that's going to have to be something that you are going to need to manage in the new year as well. So think about what's going to be coming up. Now, take a look at that list. Take a look at the areas that you've been managing this year, and also take a look at the areas that you know are going to be coming up for the new year. So then take a look and see what areas can you eliminate in the new year. Of the categories or the areas of responsibility that you had going on this year, what can you eliminate? What do you know is going to be stopping in the new year? Maybe that's a job or a current business because you are going to be transitioning into something new. What is something that you need to stop in the new year? Something that is just not serving you, whether it's being a part of an organization that doesn't make you happy, or anything else that is kind of taking away from your energy as opposed to giving you more energy. Think about any areas that you can just eliminate that's coming up for next year that you can just completely remove. And then with this final list, at this point in time, right? Because it could change, and we want to be open to that flexibility and the fact that things can, of course, change and be able to adapt. But with this final list at this point in time, um, or what is it that that you need to manage in the new year? I read that question all weird, but what is the final list at this point in time? After you looked at what you had going on this year, after thinking about what's going to be coming up for next year, and then eliminating anything that you don't want to include or that you don't need to include, what does that list look like? And here I just have some common areas that a lot of times we have in our areas of responsibility. So, of course, ourselves, right? So, self is on there, children or family, work, business, home, any volunteer groups you're a part of, hobbies or clubs, different things like that. If you're going to school as well, different things like that are your areas of responsibility. So, think about all of those things that you had going on this year and that are going to be coming up into next year, because that's going to help you to create a planning system that is going to serve you and help you be effective in the new year. So then step number 5 is tools. So this is how or where you want to think about what is the best way for you to plan and track. Don't think about, what it is that you've been told are the best ways to do things per se. Think about what is best for you at this point in time with the planning that you've done in the past or that you're doing currently. Think about what has been the best for you. How is it that you plan the best? Is it with paper and pen? Is it doing it digitally? Is it on a Google Calendar? Is it using a combination of both a Google Calendar and paper and pen? Is it using a combination of a Google Calendar and a digital planner? Like, think about what works best for you in terms of the tools, because this is going to really help you create that planning system that works for you too. So also think about, how do you track the best? Because planning is one thing, but then tracking and making sure that we're completing the tasks that we're supposed to get done is another thing entirely. So think about, do you do best with a, to-do list and just having kind of like a one list that just has all of your tasks on there that you want to complete each day? Or do you do better when you have something that's more visual and it's more of a project management style of things? Maybe it's something that shows the overlap of all the tasks that you have going on, and really just managing a project as a whole, as opposed to each individual task on a to-do list. Think about that. What works best for you? Now, I know I also mentioned, focus in on you and based on what you've done in the past and what you're doing currently. But this is also a place that you want to think about, well, what have you heard are some good tools to use, or some good, methods to apply? Because this could be a part of the list of things that you've maybe learned about here on YouTube or in other forms of content, or that you've read about in a book that you haven't necessarily tried yet, but you want to try. So think about what tools you've heard about that are piquing your interest and you want to try out in the new year, and include that in this step as well. And then finally, step number 6 is just putting it all together. So, what is your planning system going to be for 2023? You want to construct your planning system to be in the format or formats and the method or methods that are effective for you, which goes right back to step number 1. You also want to incorporate what works for you from this year. Incorporate all of that into your planning system. Remove anything that did not work this year, or anything that you don't have to worry about managing in the new year. We're all about eliminating things that just don't have to be a part of our willpower or our mental energy. So eliminate anything that you can that you don't need to include next year, whether it's just something that didn't work for you in your planning system, or a category that's not serving you or that you don't need to manage in the new year. And then also create your system that allows you to plan and manage each important area for next year. So once you've eliminated any areas that you don't have to incorporate for next year, make sure that your new planning system will help you keep an eye and track and manage each of the important categories that you're keeping and carrying in to the new year. A lot of times across the board, planning systems can, fail a lot of people because we're not necessarily thinking about all of the categories or responsibilities that we have in our lives. So I really am challenging you this year to think about, what are those areas that I need to manage so that I can stay on top of and balanced with each of those areas, and actually manage them well in the new year in 2023. Now, also look for any ways that you can incorporate anything that you want to try out or learn more about. So, this goes back to our reflections and any of the topics that you want to learn more about as it relates to yourself. Maybe there are some tendencies or some patterns or behaviors that you've really learned about yourself this year that you want to dig into more in the new year. Make a list of that so that you can create the space to be able to dig into that a little bit more. Also, include any topics about planning in general, or any of the tools you've heard are really effective, or systems that you've heard are really effective, and put that into your list as well, so that then you can create space to, be learning more about how you can continue to be more productive, effective, efficient, and just get more done that are the things that matter to you, so you can live a life you love. Also, look for some ways that you can add in some habits that will help you to be balanced yet productive. So these could be habits that maybe you tested out this year and you want to carry into the new year. These could be habits that, again, you've heard about and are piquing your interest, but you haven't tried out. And these could be, habits that are just completely brand new to you, but it just feels like it's something that you want to try out to see if it can help you to be more productive, but yet balanced and just feel like you are truly on top of the areas of life that you need to manage. Okay. So then, as a bonus tip here, I want to say keep it simple. Okay. We went through the 6 steps to create your planning system, but as an overarching tip in each of these steps and with creating your planning system as a whole, keep it simple. And that's because the simpler the system, the easier it is to achieve results. So go through each of these 6 steps, but always keep in the back of your mind, remember to keep it as simple as possible. And once you have mapped out what that planning system looks like for you for the new year, go through it with another lens and just see if there are any ways that you can further streamline or eliminate additional steps. Ask yourself if you really need 6 planners or if you can do okay with 3 if you're somebody who likes to use multiple planners. But on the opposite end of that, think about, well, if you are using just one planner, but it's causing you to have to flip through and write things a little bit too much in multiple places. Think about if you did split it into maybe 2 planners, if that would help you a little bit more. So, simplicity goes in 2 different directions, and it's a matter of, well, how much work do you actually have to put in to planning and managing and getting things done? Because the simpler that is, the easier it is to go from planned to completed, the more likely you are to achieve the results that you're looking for. Okay. So that is it. Those are the 6 steps that I wanted to share to create a planning system for 2023 that is going to help you to be a lot more efficient, productive, and achieve the results that you're looking for so that you can live a life that you love. So let me know in the comments. I'll pause for just a moment. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them for you. We'll wait for just a few more moments, see if there's any questions. If not, you can always put your questions. This is going to stay here on YouTube, so put your questions on the um, oh my gosh, the video that stays on here, your comments in a comment. That's what I was trying to say. Go ahead and put your questions in a comment on the video that lives here on YouTube. Lizette, yes, there will be a replay. It's going to stay here on YouTube. So if you do have any questions coming up, after you watch that, definitely just leave a comment below the video and I'll come back to that and be able to answer as well, for sure. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's training. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you found this to be valuable. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Leave a comment below this video. It will live here on YouTube, and I will see you in the next training. Bye.